Chapter 23:12. The Aura of the Upper Realm? Yi Qing Luo was stunned. There was a strange expression on her face. Jun Qing Wu's appearance was too strange. Jun Qing Wu was definitely not just a student of the class of gods. No. To be more precise, she was suspecting that Jun Qing Wu was not a student of the class of gods. But to get close to her, she came to the class of gods. Linking the aura that Tang Beiyuan sensed, coupled with her guess, if all these were true. The teachers were acting strangely towards Jun Qing Wu, and her incompatibility in the class of gods, and this room which did not look like a dormitory at all. Everything could be explained clearly. Currently, the only thing she could be sure of was that Jun Qing Wu did not have any ill intentions towards her. Perhaps it was as what Jun Qing Wu said. Dmo Xian had specially instructed her to stay by her side and protect her. Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyelashes and nodded. I understand. If you have a way to pass the news to Xian, please ask him about this matter. Tang Beiyuan looked troubled. If the Overlord was in the Nirvana realm, I would be able to pass the news to the Overlord as soon as possible. But, the Overlord is heading to the Upper Realm. The Upper Realm and Nirvana realm were very far apart. And it was totally not the same realm. This news would not reach Dmo Xian no matter what. Yi Qing Luo sighed softly. Her slender fingers touched the profound phoenix ring which was suffused with a red glow. She tried to ask Tang Beiyuan because the profound phoenix ring could not sense Dmo Xian's profound dragon ring. It looked like the difference between the realms. Even divine weapons could not penetrate it. Forget it, after the final training session at night was over, she would go into the Azure Dew bracelet and ask Old Man Song. She would see how much of what Jun Qingwu had said just now was true, and how much was false. Just as she was about to ask Tang Beiyuan to leave. Tang Beiyuan's expression changed as she whispered, Mistress, someone is coming. Then she hurriedly disappeared into the air. The next moment, he saw a group of people running toward him in twos and threes. 2 students from the class of gods. And 2 students from the devil class. The moment Kitty Li saw Yi Qing Luo, her eyes lit up. Meow, it opened its arms and pounced towards Yi Qing Luo. Following closely behind, Ni Ruopan panicked and said, Qing Luo, something happened. Class monitor and student C from the class of gods are fighting. Yi Qing Luo's hand which was rubbing Kitty Li's head paused. What's the matter? The 3 of them did not participate in the training just now. Why did they suddenly start fighting for no reason? I don't know either. They were fighting very fiercely. The class monitor seemed to want to kill student C. We couldn't stop him at all. Xiao Yi told me to find you. Only you can stop the class monitor. Ni Rupan's eyes were red as she quickly explained the situation. Yi Qing Luo glanced at the 2 unhappy students from the class of God, her eyes dimmed. Bring me there. Actual combat training forest. Not long after they entered the forest, they heard the sound of profound energy and weapons colliding in front of them. The shouts of the students were also mixed in. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly as she hurried to catch up. He saw Long Yunzhan and Si Minghan fighting intensely, as if the other party was their father's murderer. The 3 masters rushed up to stop them but were forced back by the 2 of them. Obviously, they would not stop until one of them was dead. Long Yunzhan held the blue long sword in his hand as his profound energy surged, wave after wave. The long sword seemed to be covered with a layer of scales, shining with a strange luster. Chapter 23:13. Yi Qing Luo's brows creased tightly as her gaze was fixated on the long sword in Long Yunzhan's hand. Had he really gone mad? In order to kill Si Minghan, he didn't even intend to conceal his identity as a human dragon. He actually covered his own dragon scale on the sword. Long Yunzhan. The young lady cried out sharply as her gaze was burning as she stared at the man who was still in battle. The man whose name was called turned slightly stiff. The hand which was holding the long sword tightened. Everyone turned to look at Zhang Xian. Qing Luo. Tong Ziqing saw Yiqing Luo coming and immediately ran in front of her. She was usually cold and elegant, but at this moment, she was crying her eyes out. Tong Ziqing hugged Yiqing Luo's arm. Qing Luo, quickly stop class monitor. He seems to have gone mad. Totally doesn't listen to me. Tong Ziqing was sobbing as she couldn't speak clearly. Yiqing Luo patted the back of her hand lightly. On the other side, the battle which had stopped momentarily continued. Long Yunzhan suddenly roared as the blue long sword in his hand was raised up high above his head. A burst of blue profound glow was released from his body. Indistinctly, that blue long sword revealed an indistinct dragon shape. Yiqing Luo's heart trembled fiercely. Long Yunzhan, he really intended to expose his identity as a human dragon? Did he really intend to kill Si Minghan? This move, if it really hit Si Minghan, Si Minghan would absolutely not be able to survive. Lass. In her mind, old man Sung's voice suddenly rang. Young lad Long's eyes are not right. Eyes? Yiqing Luo immediately looked at Long Yunzhan's eyes. That pair of azure blue eyes were filled with waves after waves of turbulent waves. And around that eye socket, obviously, a wisp of black qi lingered around it. Profound yin qi. It was profound yin qi again. Dark forces profound yin qi. Looking at the long sword in Long Yunzhan's hand, the dragon shape was about to take shape. Yiqing Luo flew up and her fair slender palm clasped onto Long Yunzhan's hand which was holding the long sword. The bewitching red glow instantly blended with the blue light. Long Yunzhan's body started to stiffen. His raised arm could not be swung down. Yiqing Luo took the opportunity to look at Si Minghan and said sternly, "Leave this place quickly. He's been controlled by a secret technique." Si Minghan was originally thinking of ways to form a barrier to block Long Yunzhan's attack. Suddenly, a red light flashed before his eyes. Immediately after, he heard the girl's unquestionable shout. Almost instinctively, Si Minghan's figure quickly disappeared into the forest. However, Long Yunzhan did not return to normal because of Si Minghan's disappearance. His body was still extremely tense. That handsome and aloof face was twisted in an extremely terrifying manner. At such a close distance, the strand of black mysterious yin qi under the azure eyes was extremely horrifying. Ah Zhan. Yiqing Luo opened her mouth, calling Long Yunzhan's name. Long Yunzhan's body stiffened again, his eyelashes trembling slightly. But the madness in his eyes was still unbridled. He began to struggle. Yiqing Luo's grip tightened. He forcefully used his dark force to suppress Long Yunzhan's pressure. The dragon-shaped light pattern around the long sword also gradually dimmed. Ah Zhan, I know you can hear me. Yiqing Luo's voice was cold and filled with a penetrating feeling. You don't want to hurt me, don't want to hurt any one of us, then listen to me. Long Yunzhan was still struggling. Chapter 23:14. The blue long sword was gleaming wantonly. It was still struggling against Yiqing Luo's profound energy. Relax your body and mind, leave everything to me. Yiqing Luo's hand was trembling because of Long Yunzhan's struggle. Long Yunzhan's strength was huge. So huge that she couldn't hold Long Yunzhan's hand. Yiqing Luo was very clear. Once she let go of Long Yunzhan's hand, that long sword in Long Yunzhan's hand would become a killing weapon. She couldn't let Long Yunzhan do something that he regretted the last time. Otherwise, it would happen again. Long Yunzhan's heart would definitely collapse. Scram, get lost. A hoarse voice came out from Long Yunzhan's throat. A strong vicious qi filled Yiqing Luo's body and mind. Yiqing Luo's hand trembled even more violently because of Long Yunzhan's struggle. Yiqing Luo couldn't bear to hurt Long Yunzhan, so she didn't dare to use her profound energy to suppress it. However, Long Yunzhan had totally lost his rationality. He didn't have the slightest bit of pity. The stronger the strength, the heavier the vicious qi. His azure blue eyes were slowly covered by a black mist. Yiqing Luo couldn't hold Long Yunzhan's hand anymore. Her breathing was slightly messed up. She was just about to take a deep breath, thinking of a way to knock Long Yunzhan out. Suddenly, an intense scorching feeling gushed out from her heart. As though a raging fire was burning in her heart. This scorching feeling made Yiqing Luo's hand loosen a little. Long Yunzhan took the opportunity to backhand and patted Yiqing Luo's shoulder, breaking free. Class monitor. Qing Luo. Devil class's students behind her hurriedly called out. Yiqing Luo staggered backwards a few steps as her slender brows creased as she looked at her painful shoulder. Following that, her gaze shifted towards Long Yunzhan, who was standing at the original spot with a vicious look in his eyes. This gaze made Yiqing Luo's heart feel scorching as it corroded her internal organs. Her gaze was fixed on Long Yunzhan's chest. Yiqing Luo's pupils suddenly contracted. She hadn't had the time to investigate in detail if she had seen wrongly. The next moment, Long Yunzhan's explosive roar resounded. Ah 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 ah. The roars were endless. Profound light flickered and profound energy surged. Long Yunzhan's expression became extremely sinister. Then, he swung his sword horizontally. A ray of blue-colored profound energy slashed open a piercingly cold profound mark in the air, like circles and circles of ripples. Yiqing Luo's attention had already been attracted by the direction of Long Yunzhan's heart. The more she wanted to investigate, the more she wanted to know. His profound jade heart emitted more and more scorching heat. It was as if her entire heart was placed on a raging fire, roasting it back and forth. There was no time to dodge. Long Yunzhan. Stop! From the direction of the devil class, came a girl's cry. A tall and slender figure rushed over from afar. She rushed over to Long Yunzhan, stretched out her arms, wrapped them around his waist, and buried her face in his chest. Long Yunzhan, wake up. I beg you, wake up, the woman wept softly, her voice filled with helplessness and longing. This kind of you, I'm afraid. I don't like this kind of you. Long Yunzhan, change back. Change back, all right. The surrounding vicious qi and the rumbling profound qi, at this moment, returned to tranquility. The frenzied man froze on the spot. He allowed the lady in his arms to hug him, crying out his name. Chapter 23:15. However, when the woman raised her head, what she saw was a pair of eyes filled with black qi. The lady's pupils constricted as she couldn't help but let out a shrill scream. Ziqing, be careful. Yiqing Luo noticed Long Yunzhan's change and immediately opened her mouth, wanting to pull Tong Ziqing back. The current Long Yunzhan was an unstable factor. He had no rationality. Even if it was Tong Ziqing, he wouldn't remember. Tong Ziqing couldn't take one attack from Long Yunzhan. But just as she was about to charge over, Long Yunzhan's profound energy, which had been stabilized for some time, started to roll over like waves of ripples. Bam! A heaven-shattering loud sound was heard. The profound qi struck the side of Yiqing Luo's feet, blocking her path. Long Yunzhan raised one hand as his 5 fingers locked onto the lady's shoulder. His slender fingers dived into the lady's skin one by one. Under the whistling strong wind, one could clearly hear the sound of bones breaking from Tong Ziqing's side. But Tong Ziqing had no intention to leave. She hugged Long Yunzhan tightly as the intense pain from her bones breaking only made her complexion paler by a few shades. Her teary eyes looked foolishly at Long Yunzhan's face, which was just inches away from her. Her lips curled slightly as her voice trembled slightly. Long Yunzhan, I said this before. No matter how you reject me, push me away, I will pester you. Until I die, I will pester you. Get lost. The hoarse voice was filled with rage. Long Yunzhan's 5 fingers exerted even more strength. Tong Ziqing was in so much pain that she broke out in cold sweat, but she refused to let go of Long Yunzhan. Ziqing. Move aside first, perhaps I know. Yi Qing Luo was just about to say that she might have seen through the reason why Long Yunjian became like this. Suddenly, Long Yunjian, who heard her voice, turned his gaze towards her without blinking. That pupils which were filled with profound yin qi were emitting a strange and charming aura. He raised his other sword-wielding hand, and the blue profound light suddenly turned into a huge blue flying dragon. Setting off a raging wave, it slashed towards Yi Qing Luo's direction. Long Yunjian. Wake up. If you hurt her, you will regret it for life. Tong Zi Qing's heart almost stopped beating when she saw Long Yunjian's actions. Last time, Long Yunjian was controlled by the dark forces and almost hurt Yi Qing Luo. Later Yan Xiao Yi helped Yi Qing Luo to block that move. However, it was enough to make Long Yunjian feel so guilty that he almost wanted to give up and hide from them. If Long Yunjian. Long Yunjian. Without thinking, Yi Qing, of Long, Tong Ziqing didn't even think as she gathered a burst of profound energy in her palm and held on to Long Yunjian's wrist. How of her strength could be compared to Yun Long, in the next instant, her hand was pulled away. In a moment of desperation, Tong Ziqing grabbed Long Yunjian's long sword with one hand. Yun's. Long. Yun Long of Yun. Long Yunjian's violent attack seemed to have been paused as he was stunned on the spot. Luo of Dong Long. Qing. Yun Zt. To say, of. Her beautiful eyes stared at Long Yunjian as her heart trembled. Long Yunjian, don't go on like this. Turn back into the Long Yunjian that I like, okay, Yun eyes. Fell. Long Yunjian's hand which was holding the sword. Warm blood covered Long Yunjian's hand. Long Yunjian seemed to have sensed something. He turned his head stiffly and looked at his hand which was stained with blood. He looked at Tong Zi Qing, who was still holding the sword tightly, as though she wasn't afraid that the sharp blade would cut off her fingers. Chapter 23:16. Tong Ziqing furrowed her brows and threw her sword to the side in pain. The black energy in Long Yunjian's eyes was still sweeping wildly. He stared blankly at Tong Zi Qing's blood-soaked palm. He stared blankly at his blood-soaked hands. Little by little, his face became distorted. Long Yunjian. Long Yunjian. Tong Ziqing sensed Long Yunjian's abnormality and anxiously called out his name. However, Long Yunjian suddenly raised his hand and pushed her away forcefully. Tong Ziqing was dizzy from losing too much blood, and her physical strength could no longer hold on. With such a push, his whole body swayed and fell to the ground. She couldn't care less about the pain. She wanted to get up and return to Long Yunjian's side. Long Yunjian hugged his head and screamed in pain, "Ah! Ah!" The screams were filled with immense pain, as if they were experiencing great torture. Long Yunjian. Hearing the screams, Tong Zi Qing was on the verge of tears. Long Yunjian was in pain, but her heart was in even more pain. She stood up with great difficulty, and a wave of dizziness made her vision blurry. She stumbled towards Long Yunjian. "Don't come over." Long Yunjian's hoarse voice suddenly rose, "Leave me. I don't know what I'll do. Let's go. Hurry up and leave." Tong Ziqing stopped in her tracks. She tightened her grip. His palm, which had been cut by the blade, felt a stinging pain. Her consciousness cleared up a little. She moved her lips and her throat was a little dry. "Long Yunjian, I won't leave you, never. Go." Long Yunjian roared, causing his head to feel a strong piercing pain again. He let out another painful scream, clutched his head, and fell to the ground. Long Yunjian. Tong Ziqing's throat tightened. She took a deep breath and steadied her consciousness. She tried her best to move closer to Long Yunjian. Behind her, Yi Qing Luo's cold voice was heard, "Zi Qing, don't go over." Tong Ziqing was taken aback. There was a trace of bitterness in her beautiful eyes. "Qing Luo. Save him. Only you can save him. Tong Ziqing finally gave up and walked up as she spoke in a hoarse voice, begging Yiqing Luo. It's not me. It's you. Yiqing Luo shook her head as she looked at Tong Ziqing's eyes, which were filled with pain, as she sighed softly. It's you who awakened him. If you were to get any closer, I'm afraid it would agitate. Before he could finish, a dong sound was heard. Tong Ziqing subconsciously turned her head and looked behind her. Long Yunzhan fell to the ground with his eyes closed. Even though he had fainted, his brows were still tightly knitted together. Long Yunzhan. Tong Ziqing's heart skipped a beat. She raised her foot and rushed towards Long Yunzhan. A strong dizziness drained all the strength from her body. In the next instant, Tong Ziqing's vision went black, and she collapsed. Tong Ziqing only woke up the next morning. As soon as she woke up, she looked around and shouted Long Yunzhan's name nervously. Hearing the commotion, Yiqing Luo pushed the door and entered. Qing Luo, class monitor he. How is he? Tong Ziqing looked at Yiqing Luo worriedly. He's fine. Ghost Doctor and the three masters are taking care of him. Yiqing Luo walked to the bedside and bent down to lift Tong Ziqing's bandaged hand. You're really daring. If Zhan really couldn't control himself and cut off your finger, when Zhan regains consciousness, how guilty would he feel? Chapter 23:17. Yiqing Luo let go of her hand and frowned slightly. Do you think he won't feel guilty for doing this? Won't he regret it for the rest of his life? In his heart, I'm not as important as you. Tong Ziqing's lashes were wet. It's better for me to get hurt than you. Yiqing Luo's brows creased even tighter. In that case, you blocked the sword with your bare hands because you feel that I'm more important than you in Zhan's heart? No. Tong Ziqing immediately raised her head as her face was filled with panic. I don't mean it in that way, Qing Luo. It's not just for class monitor. I don't want you to get hurt. She stuttered as she explained. The lady who wasn't good with words, usually cold and elegant, had already removed her mask at this moment. Yiqing Luo looked at her and her heart softened a little. Ziqing, no matter if it's Zhan or you, you're both my most important brothers. If any one of you gets hurt because of me, I will regret it. She paused as she stretched out her hand and placed it on Tong Ziqing's head. Her voice became gentler. In future, don't do such silly things again. Tong Ziqing's beautiful eyes widened as she looked at Yiqing Luo in a daze for some time before she slowly nodded her head. I know. Now tell me, the reason why Zhan and Si Minghan fought. Yiqing Luo sat beside Tong Ziqing as she sat on the bed. Asking about this matter, Tong Ziqing's cheeks suddenly flushed red. Yiqing Luo raised her brows. Could it be because of love? No, it's not. Tong Ziqing immediately denied as her beautiful eyes fluttered unnaturally. Class monitor, why would he? Because of me. Zhan's situation is slightly complicated. You have to tell me the details of their fight so that I can analyze how exactly he was implanted with the profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo rubbed Tong Ziqing's head. In terms of age, Tong Ziqing was actually older than her by a year. But Yiqing Luo's mental age was too old. Yiqing Luo's consolation also made Tong Ziqing's restless heart gradually calm down after she heard about Long Yunzhan's complicated condition. I wanted to be alone. So I went to the actual combat training forest. Previously at the training ground, Yiqing Luo's words made it hard for her to calm down. She had always been wondering if loving Long Yunzhan so stubbornly was the right choice. Later on, Si Minghan caught up. She, who had loved Si Minghan deeply, could naturally see his feelings for her. At least for now, Si Minghan really liked her. However, her heart had fallen onto Long Yunzhan and could not be retrieved. She trapped herself in Long Yunzhan's cage and was unwilling to come out. But Si Minghan said that he was willing to wait. He and she were the same kind of people. They all had their own stubbornness. For Long Yunzhan, Tong Ziqing had loved him for so many years, waited for so many years, and guarded him for so many years. He, Si Minghan, had loved Tong Ziqing for so many years, waited for so many years, and guarded her for so many years. It was undeniable that her heart had been shaken by Si Minghan's words at that time. They had been in love for too long. They had been one-sided for too long. Tong Ziqing had almost forgotten, what does it feel like to be loved? Si Minghan could give her the feeling of being loved. Si Minghan could love her like how she loved Long Yunjian. Chapter 23:18. Such a thought flashed through her mind. Tong Ziqing quickly put it out of her mind. Because she wanted to be loved, she chose someone who loved her. Perhaps, this was the best choice for many women. However, her obsession with Long Yunjian was so deep that it could not be cut. She had Long Yunjian in her heart. What right did she have to be loved by Si Minghan? She was not happy in love. Why did she have to ruin Si Minghan's life? Just as she was about to refuse, Long Yunjian came. The first time she saw Long Yunjian, Tong Ziqing was happy. Long Yunjian chased after her, which meant that he was worried about her and that she was in his heart. However, Long Yunjian's eyes slowly moved away when he saw Si Minghan holding her hand. He said, "I'm sorry to disturb you." After that, he turned around and left. Tong Ziqing was stunned on the spot. His heart was filled with joy, but it was as if the water of December had been poured over him. Si Minghan held her hand tightly and swore loudly, "Ziqing, if you are willing to give me a chance, give us a chance, I will definitely make you the happiest woman." Tong Ziqing was stunned. She could hear Si Minghan's words. She could also hear the footsteps that stopped behind her. The words of refusal stopped at the tip of her tongue. She wanted to know how Long Yunjian would react. She wanted to know if Long Yunjian would be a little jealous. As long as, just a little, she would be like a moth flying into a flame, without hesitation. However, the person behind her only paused for a moment. Then he walked away again. He didn't even say a word or make a sound. It was as if she would be with another man. It had nothing to do with him. Her heart sank little by little. Perhaps the pain that Long Yunjian gave her was unbearable. Or Si Minghan's smile was too bright. Tong Ziqing raised her head and looked at Si Minghan. She said word by word, "Okay. I agree to give you a chance." Si Minghan's eyes suddenly lit up. He was ecstatic and wanted to hug Tong Ziqing. Bang! A fist came crashing down. Si Minghan was caught off guard and was sent flying. Long Yunjian stood majestically in front of Tong Ziqing. Tong Ziqing stared blankly at the tall figure in front of her, and her eyes reddened. She carefully placed her hand on Long Yunjian's back and was about to speak. Long Yunjian's arm pushed backwards. He did not look back. His hand was stuck on her neck. It was an emotionless push. Scram! Long Yunjian's cold and furious roar echoed in his ears. Tong Ziqing's eyes widened in disbelief as her body swayed and fell to the ground. Long Yunjian had already taken out his long sword and attacked Si Minghan. Then, it was a battle of life and death, until now. After listening to Tong Ziqing's recollection of the scenario, Yiqing Luo's brows creased into a bundle. "Didn't you agree to Si Minghan's request because you heard that he had left? Why did Zhan appear before you the next instant? Are you sure his footsteps are leaving or walking towards you?" Yiqing Luo asked solemnly. Tong Ziqing blinked her eyes blankly. I don't know. When he didn't respond, my mind went blank. Chapter 23:19. What problem? Tong Ziqing's heart tightened as she pursed her pale lips, her eyes filled with worry. "Qing Luo, what happened to class monitor? Why is his condition so complicated?" Yiqing Luo's expression changed slightly. She was silent for a moment. She narrowed her eyes and stared at Tong Ziqing for a long while. In the end, he decided not to hide it from Tong Ziqing. In the training forest, you used your own blood to awaken Zhan's consciousness. He didn't want to hurt you, so he fought against the power that was forcing him to do so. As a result, he suffered a backlash and fell unconscious. Yiqing Luo summarized Long Yunzhan's situation in a concise and comprehensive manner. Tong Ziqing's eyes widened in shock. After a long while, she hurriedly pushed away the quilt and said, "I'm going to see him. Master Ghost Doctor and the headmaster are taking care of him. Take care of yourself first." Yiqing Luo hurriedly supported Tong Ziqing, who had almost fallen onto the ground, as she forcefully pressed her back onto the bed. "Don't think too much, Zhan's willpower is very strong. It's just a backlash and it hasn't hurt his consciousness or soul, so he will wake up very soon." But Tong Ziqing still wanted to say something. He was interrupted by Yiqing Luo again. "No buts, don't tell me you wish for Zhan to wake up to see you lying on the bed riddled with injuries because of him?" "No." Tong Ziqing immediately shook her head. The last time, Long Yunzhan had hurt Yan Xiaoyi and was almost unable to walk out from his sins. If Long Yunzhan knew that he had once again hurt her because of his manipulation, Long Yunzhan would definitely not be able to forgive himself. Especially since this was the second time she had been injured because of him. Long Yunzhan will definitely collapse. In the end, Tong Ziqing obediently lay back on the bed. "Ziqing, have more confidence in yourself. Zhan, it's not that he doesn't like you. It's just that he doesn't know what it means to like someone." Seeing Tong Ziqing's wholehearted concern for Long Yunzhan couldn't help but sigh. Yiqing Luo couldn't help but sigh. She didn't know how Long Yunzhan was able to have such a beautiful, considerate and kind girl adore him. Long Yunzhan didn't know how to cherish it. A human dragon was a human dragon. Although half of his blood was human. However, it was still a dragon. She could not understand the feelings of dragons. However, as long as someone was willing to teach him, given Long Yunzhan's intelligence, he would definitely learn it very quickly. Yiqing Luo smiled as she looked at Tong Ziqing, and couldn't help but rub her head. "Work hard, teach him what is love." Tong Ziqing's throat was a little dry. How could Long Yunzhan not know what it meant to like someone? Long Yunzhan clearly understood. It was just that the person he loved wasn't her. Yiqing Luo had already stood up as she smiled. "Have a good rest. I'll go over to Zhan's side to take a look at the situation. Once there's any good news, I'll come over to tell you immediately." Then, she pointed to the room next door. "It's right next door." Tong Ziqing opened her mouth, but before she could say anything, Yiqing Luo had already walked out of the room. She lowered her eyes and looked at her bandaged palm. There was a bitter expression on her face. After walking out of the room next door was extremely quiet. Yiqing Luo pushed the door open and entered. Only Mo Yuing stood beside the bed in a daze, her eyes lifeless. Hearing the noise, she turned her head stiffly. "Where's Master Ghost Doctor?" Yiqing Luo inquired softly. "Going to the pill refining room to discuss about class monitor situation." Mo Yuing replied in a flat tone. Yiqing Luo nodded her head as she took a look at Long Yunzhan, who was lying on the bed with his brows knitted tightly, as though he was in extreme pain. She suddenly thought of something as she said to Mo Yuing, "Go and have a rest first, I'll keep watch here." Chapter 23:20. Mo Yuing nodded in a daze. "Oh." After that, like a puppet, she walked out stiffly step by step. The room door was shut. There was only one candle left in the room. The room was slightly dim. Yiqing Luo walked to the bedside and looked at Long Yunzhan's face carefully. She bent over and used her slender fingers to quickly check his face. Then she opened Long Yunzhan's eyes. There was no more profound yin qi. Yiqing Luo released her hand and straightened her body. Perhaps it was because of her touch earlier. It made Long Yunzhan feel a dull pain in his body. His brows creased even tighter. Yiqing Luo sat down by the bedside and frowned as she called Old Man Sung out. Old Man Sung's spiritual body circled a few rounds on top of Yiqing Luo's head and floated to the bedside. "Lass Luo, let me take a look at this lad." Old Man Sung leaned close to Long Yunzhan and touched Long Yunzhan's tightly knitted brows with his fog-like hand. Yiqing Luo nodded. Zhan seems to be controlled by the profound Yin Qi again. But this is the class of gods, even if the dark forces appeared in the class of gods. They might not be able to do it without anyone knowing, not to mention the dark forces which no longer have any power. Old Man Sung's fog-like palm slowly touched Long Yunzhan's forehead. A ball of white fog enveloped Long Yunzhan's body. Yiqing Luo held her breath and didn't disturb him anymore. After some time, the white fog gradually dispersed. Old Man Sung seemed to be startled as his spiritual body floated above the muslin curtain. "Old Man Sung, what's the matter?" Yiqing Luo raised her head anxiously. Old Man Sung's reaction made her heart rise to her throat. Old Man Sung's spiritual body floated a few rounds and returned to Yiqing Luo's side. His expression was grave. "Lass Luo, this lad. What controls him is not the profound Yin Qi." Yiqing Luo was stunned. "Not the profound Yin Qi? Then what is it?" "I remember now. Didn't this kid get controlled by Bai and in the tomb of the Ling King?" That time, this old man felt a little strange. Old Man Sung tightly knitted his fog-like white eyebrows. His voice was very heavy and solemn. "This old man will ask you a very serious question." Yiqing Luo's heart started to turn anxious. She took a deep breath and nodded. "Go ahead. If I advise you to kill this kid, will you do it?" Old Man Sung's gaze bore into Yiqing Luo. His tone was extremely serious. His expression was incomparably grave. Old Man Sung was not joking. He was really suggesting to kill Long Yunzhan. Yiqing Luo was frightened by Old Man Sung's gaze. She was stunned for a moment before shaking her head without any hesitation. "No, Zhan is my brother. I can't kill him. This old man is your elder." Old Man Sung was overbearing. Yiqing Luo's throat choked, her long eyelashes fluttered in panic. "Old Man Sung," she furrowed her brows, her mind filled with confusion. "If you want to kill him, at least give me a reason." Old Man Sung's face was expressionless, but his tone was extremely serious. "This kid's body has been poisoned by someone." "Poison? What does that mean?" Yiqing Luo stood up in disbelief. Chapter 23-21. Yiqing Luo's breathing tightened. Zhan he. How could he possibly? Long Yunzhan was a human dragon. How could he have been poisoned without knowing it? Did he not feel anything at all from such a vicious goo poison? Furthermore, this venom has been in this kid's body for at least 10 years. Old Man Sung's next sentence made Yiqing Luo dumbstruck once again. More than 10 years? In other words, when Zhan was around 7 or 8 years old, this goo poison had already been implanted into his body? Zhan said that his memories before he came to the devil class were blank. Is it related to this goo poison? Yiqing Luo suppressed the astonishment in her heart, trying her best to maintain her composure as she asked. Old Man Sung slightly pondered for a moment. This old man has never deliberately researched goo poisons. As for whether or not it is related to goo poisons, this old man does not dare to confirm. Yiqing Luo's fingers unconsciously curled up. The only thing that this old man can be sure of is that the cultivation method of this kind of poison is very complicated, and this kind of poison can only be found in the upper realm. It can be said that this poison is definitely cultivated by the people of the upper realm with extraordinary strength and high status. The upper realm, extraordinary strength, extremely high status. These few words kept reverberating in Yiqing Luo's mind. Who could be so cruel? To actually implant such a vicious goo poison into a 7 or 8-year-old child's body. Since they were in the upper realm, their strength was so strong and their status was so high, Why would they do such a thing to a 7 or 8-year-old child? Could it be related to the human dragon race? Yiqing Luo suddenly recalled that the human dragon race only existed in the upper realm. Long Yunzhan had lost his memories and did not know why he was in the Nirvana realm. But he must have come from the human dragon tribe. It was very likely that before Long Yunzhan left the human dragon clan, he had been poisoned by the human dragon, or some other profound practitioner. But what was the purpose of implanting the goo poison in Long Yunzhan? Right at this moment, Old Man Sang's spirit body swiftly rushed into Yiqing Luo's wrist. In her mind, Old Man Sang's voice sounded, "Little Luo, someone's coming. Be careful. If this brat wakes up, if his consciousness hasn't recovered, the only way is to kill him." No way. Yiqing Luo rejected without thinking, "You can't kill Zhan. He's only poisoned by a parasite. Since it's a parasite, there must be a way to cure it." Old Man Sang didn't say anything else. He was actually very clear that Yiqing Luo would never give up on her own brothers. All he did was state the worst-case scenario, to let Yiqing Luo be mentally prepared first. The door was pushed open. The ghost doctor and the other 3 masters walked in. Jun Qingwu, Yan Shaoyi and the rest followed behind. On seeing Yiqing Luo, Yan Shaoyi hurriedly walked up and spoke softly, "Qing Luo, earlier ghost doctor and teacher Shenqing checked on class monitor's body and class monitor's profound jade heart extracted a sliver of profound yin qi." Yiqing Luo took a glance at ghost doctor. So the mystical yin qi had already been extracted. No wonder she did not feel any mystical yin qi on Xiao Jin's body. According to Old Man Sang's conjecture, the reason Long Yunzhan lost control in the tomb of the Ling King was very likely because the goo poison flared up. This time, it was also because of the goo poison. Moreover, both times, it was related to the mysterious yin qi. Chapter 23-22. Heh. A cold sneer was heard clearly in the quiet room. Everyone looked towards the direction of the voice. They saw Jun Qingwu, who was standing at the door walking towards Long Yunzhan. "What are you laughing at?" Yan Shaoyi frowned as she stared at Jun Qingwu unhappily. "If you're not here to visit class monitor, please leave." Jun Qingwu totally ignored Yan Shaoyi. A pair of icy cold beautiful eyes stared at Long Yunzhan without blinking. Yan Shaoyi, who was ignored, immediately revealed an angry look as she gritted her teeth and pointed at Jun Qingwu angrily. "Hey! Student Jun Qingwu, what are you trying to? Don't limit his abnormality to the profound yin qi." Jun Qingwu's icy cold voice interrupted Yan Shaoyi's words. Her words were obviously directed at Yiqing Luo. Yan Shaoyi's words were stuck in her throat. His expression darkened a little. She was just about to speak when Xiao Jin had already pulled Yan Shaoyi into his arms. "Class monitor is still unconscious. If student Jun Qingwu has a way, it's a good thing." Yan Shaoyi pursed her red lips as she breathed out heavily from her nose. "Humph." Then she stuffed her little face into Xiao Jin's arms. This interlude was considered to be over. After Yiqing Luo heard Jun Qingwu's words, her pupils contracted as she looked over in astonishment. "You mean? For him to become like this, are you sure that the profound yin qi has such a great ability?" Jun Qingwu glanced at Yan Shaoyi and the rest with a smile which didn't look like a smile. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she stared at Jun Qingwu for some time. A guess in her heart was slowly overlapping with the lady in front of her. Her heart suddenly thumped heavily. She looked towards Yan Shaoyi and the other 3 masters. Before she could speak, the 3 masters had already found an excuse and left the room. Yan Shaoyi looked at the 3 masters who left and looked at Long Yunzhan. An extremely dissatisfied expression surfaced on her pretty face. Why did she need to leave when they were discussing about class monitor? What could class monitor have to hide from her and Xiao Jin? Not waiting for Yan Shaoyi to express her dissatisfaction, Xiao Jin had already gently held her shoulders. "Let's go out and talk." Yan Shaoyi snorted a few times, but still obediently followed Xiao Jin out of the room. The door closed, and after Xiao Jin half carried and half coaxed her away from Long Yunzhan's room. Yan Xiaoyi then angrily pushed Xiao Jin aside as her beautiful eyes stared wide open, her face filled with rage. Why did Qing Luo hide the truth from us about class monitor's matter, but let Jun Qing Wu participate instead? Jun Qing Wu is a student of the class of gods. We are Qing Luo's brothers, the class monitor's brothers. These words could be shouted out in anger at any time. But more than that, it was the sadness of being isolated by Yi Qing Luo. Xiao Jin sighed softly. Every one of us have our own secrets, just like me, just like you. Class monitor also has his own secrets. Qing Luo is not willing to let us know. It's for our own good, not because she doesn't treat you as a brother. He walked over and stretched out his arms, slowly pulling her into his embrace. He whispered in her ear, I'm not willing to tell the other brothers that I'm the future patriarch of the Huangfu family. Am I also isolating them from the world? Yan Xiaoyi pouted and glared at him. I know, but I just don't feel good in my heart. Chapter 23-23. Yan Xiaoyi pursed her red lips as her head fell heavily into Xiao Jin's arms. I know. Xiao Jin's large palm was placed on the back of her head as he gently rubbed it. A light breeze blew past. This scene was like a scene from a painting. Not far away, a figure stood at the corner, quietly looking at the two people who were hugging each other. He stared blankly at the two of them. That handsome face surfaced a tinge of blankness. His usual laziness had now been replaced by blankness. Although he wasn't able to hear Xiao Jin and Yan Xiaoyi's conversation clearly, but he could roughly understand what they were talking about. The young man was stunned for a moment. This was the Brotherhood of Devil Classes students? This was the reason why Devil Classes students were able to fight braver and stronger the more they fought? This was also the reason why Tong Ziqing wanted to stay in Devil Class, unwilling to part with those brothers in Devil Class? The young man slowly lowered his eyelids, concealing the desolation in his eyes. In the room, there were only Ghost Doctor, Jun Qingwu, Yi Qing Luo and Long Yunzhan who was lying on the bed. Yi Qing Luo had no interest in beating around the bush. What you said earlier, what do you mean? Jun Qingwu's brows rose slightly as her red lips curled into an icy cold arc. As a human dragon, the profound Yin Qi from the dark forces doesn't have this kind of ability to control a human dragon. Jun Qingwu accurately stated Long Yunzhan's identity. Apparently, she had long known that Long Yunzhan was a human dragon. When Ghost Doctor heard the two words, human dragon, he didn't reveal any astonishment at all. Yi Qing Luo was expressing that she was the only one who thought that no one had discovered Zhan's identity, but actually, everyone already knew. I think so too. Ghost Doctor stood by the side. The profound Yin Qi is merely the fuse to agitate this young lad. Fuse? Yi Qing Luo's delicate fists unconsciously curled up as she lowered her eyes to look at the unconscious Long Yunzhan who was still frowning. Zhan suddenly went berserk in Class of God's actual combat training forest. Where did the profound Yin Qi come from? His body already has the Xian Yin Qi hidden in it. Just a little bit of primer would be enough to summon the Xian Yin Qi. Moreover, it would become the fuse that would awaken the poison in his body. Jun Qingwu said expressionlessly. This time round, Yi Qing Luo was completely stunned. Her enchanting eyes slowly lifted as she stared intently at Jun Qingwu. You are definitely not a student of the class of gods. Who are you? Jun Qingwu could tell that Long Yunzhan was a human dragon. He also saw the goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body. According to the content of Old Man Sang's words, this kind of poison came from the upper realm and could only be cultivated by someone with great strength and status. However, Jun Qingwu could easily see through it. This wasn't something an ordinary student from the class of gods could do. Jun Qingwu's eyebrows rose as her cold eyes swept past Yi Qing Luo, as she gave a sarcastic smile. What identity do I have, is more important than your brother lying on the bed. You're naturally not as important as Zhan. Hearing Jun Qingwu's words, she apparently had no intention to deny it. Yi Qing Luo's heart sunk a little. I don't allow people with unknown origins to get close to my brother. Jun Qingwu's smile became even more sarcastic. Just based on you, you think you can stop me? This sentence had completely admitted all the guesses Yi Qing Luo had towards her. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were burning as she stared at Jun Qingwu for some time. I know you don't have any ill intentions towards me. Whether I do or not, depends on your attitude. Jun Qingwu's smile was cold. Star. Chapter 23-24. Yi Qing Luo's eyes were clear as she gazed at Jun Qingwu. After some time, she smiled. You're Ah Xian's friend, so I naturally treat you as a friend. If she really sensed enmity from Jun Qingwu. Since the moment she suspected Jun Qingwu's identity, she would no longer have any close contact with her. The main reason why she trusted Jun Qingwu was because of Dmo Xian. Because Dmo Xian had personally admitted that Jun Qingwu was his friend. And another reason. She could tell that Jun Qingwu was indeed using her own method to help her. I don't have time to waste with you on these meaningless questions. Jun Qingwu's icy cold voice was devoid of any emotions. A gaze as cool as water swept past Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo shivered as her smile became even more radiant. Of course, her smile was even more radiant. Jun Qingwu wasn't interested in it. Jun Qingwu asked coldly, do you want to save Long Yunzhan? Upon mentioning Long Yunzhan, Yi Qing Luo's expression instantly turned cold. She pursed her lips tightly as her eyes shone with a resolute radiance. Yes. Do you trust me? Jun Qingwu met her eyes as she calmly asked these three words. Almost without hesitation, Yi Qing Luo smiled and nodded. I do. If you trust me, then listen to me. Jun Qingwu didn't show any signs of astonishment, as though she had guessed that Yi Qing Luo would choose to trust her. Yi Qing Luo didn't hesitate. What do you need me to do? Leave the class of gods with me, let's go to Northern Continent. Jun Qingwu sounded as though she was asking, how's the weather today, as her tone was extremely calm. But the contents of her words made Yi Qing Luo stunned. Northern Continent? Yi Qing Luo didn't understand. Why are we going there for? You haven't heard of Northern Continent's Miaogu aristocratic family? Jun Qingwu's brows rose as she crossed her arms, using a, are you silly, expression as she swept Yi Qing Luo from head to toe. Yi Qing Luo shook her head in a daze as she answered honestly, no. Miaogu aristocratic family? Ghost Doctor, who had been silent and didn't participate in their conversation, muttered these four words. Yi Qing Luo regained her senses as she looked at Ghost Doctor. Master, you've heard of Miaogu aristocratic family? The best among Gu, I have heard of the rumors of the Miaogu clan. The Ghost Doctor grunted lightly. Gu poisons and medical skills have some similarities. Back then, I wanted to borrow the method of cultivating Gu poisons to refine pills, so I came into contact with things like Gu poisons. The Ghost Doctor pondered for a moment, as if she was reminiscing. The Gu worms cultivated by the Miaogu family, even the people of the upper realm would tremble in fear upon hearing them. Holy shit! Even the upper realm was afraid of the Nirvana realm's poison. That Miaogu aristocratic clan was too shocking. She gulped down a mouthful of saliva and looked at Jun Qingwu. You mean to say that we should go to the Miaogu aristocratic family and look for the people there to cure Ajahn? No. Jun Qingwu glanced at her with a faint smile. It's not to cure the Gu, but to suppress the outbreak of the Gu. Only suppression? Yi Qing Luo was shocked. Isn't it the Miaogu family? Don't tell me they can't cure the Gu poison in Ajahn's body? The Miaogu aristocratic family, de Gu do, although their reputation in the upper realm has spread far and wide, but the Gu poison in the lower realm is after all from the lower realm. The Gu poison in Long Yunzhan's body can only be cured when we reach the upper realm and find the person who planted the Gu. Jun Qingwu used a caring gaze as she looked at Yi Qing Luo deeply. One word, are you going or not? Chapter 23-25. She knew all too well how terrible it felt to be manipulated. There was no consciousness, no feeling, no everything. His mind was completely blank. The only thing that remained was the order given by the person who controlled her. When he woke up, he was filled with vexation when he thought of the memory of not being able to control himself. It was good that no one was hurt. But if he was being controlled and hurt someone he didn't want to hurt, then he would definitely be killed. He was forced to do something he didn't want to do at all. After waking up, his emotions were unable to calm down. If one's willpower wasn't strong enough, they would probably collapse and go crazy. Stop dilly-dallying. If you go, I'll help you. If you don't, then don't waste my time. Jun Qingwu got impatient when she saw Yi Qingluo's silence. She was willing to help Yi Qingluo because she had received some benefits from DMO Xian. If Yi Qingluo didn't want to accept this, then she couldn't be bothered to waste her time here. Go. Yi Qingluo raised her head, her eyes filled with determination. I'll go. Regardless of whether he could cure the goo poison in Long Yunzhan's body. Even if it was temporarily suppressed, it was still worth a trip. She could not let Long Yunzhan be devoured by goo worms again. If Long Yunzhan went berserk again, it was very likely that he would never be able to find himself again. How long do we need to go back and forth? Yi Qingluo seemed to have thought of something as she asked. If everything goes well, half a month. If it doesn't go smoothly, it will depend on your ability to ask the people of the Miaogu family to help Long Yunzhan suppress the goo poison. Jun Qingwu replied indifferently. Yi Qingluo was stunned. What if during this period of time, Zhan wakes up and continues to go berserk? Since I have interfered in this matter, I will take full responsibility. Jun Qingwu opened her palm and a blue jade appeared in her palm. The jade was about the size of half a palm, and it shone with a sea blue radiance. If this thing is placed in Long Yunzhan's profound heart jade, it can ensure that he remains in a comatose state for 3 months. Jun Qingwu placed the jade stone into Yi Qingluo's hands. For the next 3 months, you don't need to eat or drink. This thing will replenish all the energy that Long Yunzhan needs. 3 months? Was there enough time in 3 months? As for the Northern Wave continent, the Miaogu clan, and so on. She was a stranger. He did not have much confidence that he would be able to invite the Miaogu aristocrat clan. If it was only 3 months, Yi Qingluo clenched her fist. His eyes were shining brightly. For Zhan's sake, he had to get it done within 3 months. Without further ado, that very night, Yi Qingluo told the Devil class's students that she would be heading towards the northern continent tomorrow. Yi Qingluo didn't explain in detail the reason why she headed to the northern continent, but simply told everyone that there was someone in the northern continent who could save Long Yunzhan. The youths were reluctant. But when he saw the class monitor lying on the bed, he was still worried. Naturally he wouldn't stop Madame Qingluo from going to the northern continent to save class monitor. Zi Qing, I've already spoken to the teachers. You'll stay in the class of gods and take care of Zhan for the next 3 months. Compared to the devil class's courtyard, the class of gods place is much safer. Yi Qingluo looked at Tong Zi Qing solemnly. Tong Ziqing leaned against the headboard and moved her pale lips. I will. So recuperate obediently and get well soon so that you can take care of Zhan personally. Yi Qingluo softened her tone. After that, he gave a few more instructions to everyone. Chapter 23-26. Yan Xiaoyi originally had a straight face. In the afternoon, Yi Qingluo was unwilling to let her know the class monitor's secret and she was already very angry. Now she heard that Yi Qingluo was preparing to head to the northern continent with Jun Qingwu and had no intention to bring her along. Yan Xiaoyi was even more furious. At this moment, she heard that Yi Qingluo had a task for her. That straight face instantly revealed a bright smile. Qingluo, just tell me what task you have. I will do my best. Yi Qingluo raised her lips and waved at Yan Xiaoyi. Yan Xiaoyi ran over in small steps and moved closer to Yi Qingluo. Yi Qing Luo leaned close to Yan Xiaoyi's ear and whispered, "I will leave the remaining matters on the director to you and Jin Zi to settle." She was planning to settle the matter between the director and Si Yenmu in the next few days. Even if she couldn't do it herself, she had to clear up the following matters. The director had to step down and Si Yenmu's true colors had to be revealed. This heavenly academy. She had no intention to let the dark forces and those with ulterior motives to harm it. Rather than destroying the heavenly academy, it would be better for him to make this academy his own. Yi Qing Luo explained the plan in a concise manner. Yan Xiaoyi got more excited as she listened, her eyes sparkling. By the time Yi Qing Luo finished, Yan Xiaoyi was already eager to try and patted her chest fiercely. "Leave it to me. I will definitely settle it properly for you." The rest of the devil class students were dumbfounded. After saying goodbye, Yi Qing Luo spoke a few more words with her brothers. After that, she went to look for the three masters to discuss some matters. She was heading to the northern continent and her contracted beast manly cat had to stay by her side. Long Yunzhan was in a coma for 3 months. Tong Ziqing took care of him personally, which meant that there were 4 less students in the special training in the class of gods. This special training opportunity was hard to come by. Yi Qing Luo never did a losing business. Naturally, she had to grab another 4 people from the devil class to fill up their empty positions. The masters naturally had no objections. They had long been interested in the devil class. They also wanted to know if there were any other outstanding seedlings in the devil class other than the 11 of them. The matter was settled in this way. That night, Yi Qing Luo led Jun Qing Wu and the 3 masters to apply for leave. The 3 teachers had never left the class of God easily. This was an expert from the upper realm. The dean's entire body was wrapped in white bandages, and he seemed to be severely injured. He struggled to get up from the sickbed to welcome them. Hearing that Yi Qing Luo and Jun Qing Wu wanted to take a leave of 3 months, the director was stunned for a moment, but when he met the smiling eyes of the 3 masters, he relaxed easily. The 3 masters only said that they were interested in Yi Qing Luo's ability. They hoped that Yi Qing Luo and their class of gods Jun Qing Wu would be able to complete the experience learning mission that they had set. As for the director, his mind was now focused on how to fight against Si Yenmu, and with the support of the 3 masters from the upper realm. The dean did not dare to suspect anything else. After exchanging some conventional greetings, Yi Qing Luo and Jun Qing Wu received the proof of leaving the academy for 3 months. The next day, Yi Qing Luo bade farewell to the devil class students and a few friends, leading Kitty Li and Jun Qing Wu into the horse carriage. The devil class students looked at the slowly departing horse carriage, their hearts filled with reluctance. But, thinking of what Yi Qing Luo said before she left, they became firm in an instant. Chapter 23-27. Until the horse carriage's shadow completely disappeared from everyone's eyes. Yan Xiaoyi then waved her hand and asked everyone to return to devil class. There were some students who weren't willing to leave. Thinking of Yi Qing Luo bringing Kitty Li along to search for the Miao Gu family, they were extremely worried. The rumors of the Miao Gu family, they had more or less heard of it. Although Yi Qing Luo's ability was strong, but she totally didn't know anything about Gu poison. Those people from the Miao Gu family especially hated outsiders. If those people poisoned Yi Qing Luo, then what should they do? Once she entered the Miao Gu family, there was no way to escape unscathed. Since Qing Luo has gone, we must believe in Qing Luo. Even if we are worried, even if we want to follow up to help Qing Luo, then we have to consider our own abilities. If we follow, we will only drag Qing Luo down. Or worse, it will only cause more trouble for Qing Luo. Yan Xiaoyi saw everyone's worried eyes and stopped her footsteps as she crossed her arms and looked calmly at the crowd in devil class. Just like what Qing Luo said, we ourselves are already very strong. But in the past with Qing Luo around, no matter what we do, we have no fear because Qing Luo will definitely create a miracle for us. Yan Xiaoyi's indifferent tone, however, made the hearts of the youths in devil class tremble. That's right. They were too reliant on Yi Qing Luo in the past. As long as Yi Qing Luo was around, they had never thought that they would fail. Just like what Yi Qing Luo said before she left. They had enough power to protect themselves, to protect those people whom they cared about. But they had always been reliant on Qing Luo. Reliant on Qing Luo, to make all the arrangements for their future. But if in future, this dependence became a habit. Once Yi Qing Luo was not around, they would become a pile of loose sand. Indeed, this time Yi Qing Luo's departure. It was the first step towards independence. To chase up to Yi Qing Luo's footsteps, they must work harder to improve themselves. The youngsters' eyes were filled with determination as they clenched their fists. We understand. We will definitely be independent. When Madame Qing Luo returns, let her see our transformation. West Continent and North Continent were connected, and if they hurried on horseback, they would be able to reach North Continent in 4 to 5 days. As for Yi Qing Luo and the other two, after driving the carriage away from the crowd, they found a quiet place and summoned their respective war pets. Jun Xingwu's battle pet was just like her, a white crane the size of a horse. The grade of the white crane made Yi Qing Luo slightly astonished for a while. That was an immortal crane, a low-level holy beast. Jun Xingwu's identity was obviously not simple. When summoned, the red-crowned crane raised its noble head proudly. Its long neck was surrounded by circles of ocean blue feathers. When it saw Yi Qing Luo, the red-crowned crane spread its wings and flapped a few times. It seemed to be showing off its pure white feathers and its slender legs. Yi Qing Luo thought that the crane thought she was too beautiful, so it was jealous. Yi Qing Luo's consciousness drifted into her pet space. The two sacred beasts that had consumed the returning heaven nether yuan pill were still in a deep slumber. Yi Qing Luo then summoned Shiju out. Under Yi Qing Luo's nurturing, Shiju's body was extremely sturdy and its entire body was covered in black fur, which was shiny black. The red-crowned crane arrogantly turned its head to the side, showing its disdain for the low-level mirage beast. Chapter 23-28. The red-crowned crane originally wanted to show off its sacred beast's ability in front of the low-leveled mirage beasts. It intentionally spread its wings right from the start and with a swoosh, it flew out. That speed was as fast as lightning and in a blink of an eye, it had already disappeared. Yi Qing Luo rubbed Shiju's head. Be good, don't lower yourself to its level. Ao, Shiju cried out softly as it used its head to rub against Yi Qing Luo's palm. Then it chased after the red-crowned crane. Jun Qingwu crossed her legs as she sat on the red-crowned crane's back. The wind blew her fine black hair. She closed her eyes, and a trace of indistinct loneliness appeared on her cold and elegant face. The red-crowned crane's speed started to slow down. Jun Qingwu opened her eyes as she patted the red-crowned crane's neck. Little thing, those are my friends. If you cause them to be unable to keep up, I will hold you responsible. Her face was still expressionless. But it wasn't hard to hear the pampering and gentleness in her tone. The red-crowned crane raised its neck as it cried out. Its voice had just ended when a young lady's sweet laughter was heard from behind. Don't worry, we won't lose them. My Shiju's greatest strength is its speed. Jun Xingwu's hand, which was caressing the red-crowned crane's neck, froze. She swiftly turned her head back. She saw Yi Qing Luo and Kitty Li, who were riding on the black leopard, right behind her. Yi Qing Luo looked at her smilingly. In my heart, student Jun Qingwu is also my friend. Since we have already acknowledged each other as friends, then in future, I will call you Little Qingwu. You can also call me Little Qing Luo. Who is your friend? Jun Xingwu's expression turned embarrassed as she had not expected her words earlier to be heard clearly by Yi Qing Luo. She gave a cold harumph as she turned her head away. Shiju increased its speed as it traveled alongside the red-crowned crane. Yi Qing Luo turned her head around as she smiled at Jun Xingwu's embarrassed face. Little Qingwu, don't be shy. I know that you have long been conquered by my charm, otherwise Little Qingwu would not have told me the sacred beast pearl's whereabouts. nor would she have told me about the other method of using the sacred beast pearl, nor would she have told me about the Miao Gu family, nor would she have personally accompanied me to the northern continent. These few days of interaction. Yi Qing Luo was very clear about this. Jun Qingwu was at Sundra, cold on the outside but warm on the inside. Of course, this degree of heat was only possible if she truly placed Jun Qingwu in her heart. Only then would she be able to feel Jun Qingwu's heat. What are you talking about? Jun Qingwu's face became more and more embarrassed, and her cheeks turned red. I only helped you because I received benefits from Di Zun. Don't flatter yourself. Yi Qing Luo's smile remained unchanged, although I've only interacted with Xiao Qingwu for a few days, but I also know that if Xiao Qingwu hates me and isn't willing to help me, no matter how a Xian tempts you, you will not help me. I didn't say I hated you. Jun Qingwu felt her cheeks burning as she turned her head to one side, not willing to let Yi Qing Luo see her embarrassment, but it doesn't mean that I like you. Yi Qing Luo giggled a few times but didn't continue to force her. His teasing was done in moderation. Otherwise, if Xiao Qingwu flew into a rage out of humiliation and abandoned her and Kitty Cat, then the losses would outweigh the gains. The two beasts and three people only spent less than 3 days and they had already reached the northern continent's main city, indescribable Joy City. In order to avoid trouble, Yi Qing Luo and Jun Qingwu specially changed their appearances before they reached. Chapter 23-29. Yi Qing Luo and Jun Qingwu produced the proof of experience with the principal's stamp to prove that they were students of Heavenly Academy and successfully entered the city. Let's go to the inn to rest first and then find out where the Miao Gu family is. Jun Qingwu looked at the crowded streets as her brows creased in displeasure. Yi Qing Luo looked at Shi Ju who was standing on her shoulder. It had transformed into a palm-sized form and looked like a black kitten. At this moment it was looking around with its big round eyes, filled with curiosity. Shiju was still a young magical beast and towards new and unfamiliar places, it had a childlike curiosity. So Yi Qing Luo didn't keep this little thing into the pet space and let it follow by her side to look at the outside world. You go to the inn first, I'll bring Shiju around. Yi Qing Luo tugged Shiju's swaying black tail and turned to look at Kitty Li. Kitty wants to come along? Kitty Li will go wherever sister goes. Kitty Li blinked her bright eyes as she hugged Yi Qing Luo's arm. Yi Qing Luo smiled as she rubbed Kitty Li's head and straightened the headscarf which covered her ears. Little Qingwu, go to the inn to book a room first. Jun Qingwu frowned as she looked at the bustling crowd in disgust. If it wasn't for the fact that there were so many people, she really wanted to fly directly to the inn. She took a deep breath, avoided the crowd, and walked in the direction of the inn. Seeing Jun Qingwu's figure moving swiftly in the crowd, Yi Qing Luo couldn't help but laugh softly. She held Kitty Li's little hand as she squeezed into the crowd. Xinhua City was the main city of the North Continent and naturally was the most bustling city. There were all sorts of things which had never been seen before in the West Continent. Shiju looked around excitedly. Suddenly, Shiju's nose twitched as it called out softly beside Yi Qing Luo's ear. Yi Qing Luo followed Shiju's gaze. Not far away, there was a vendor selling candied fruits. Junior Leopard also wanted to eat candied fruits. Unable to stand Shiju's sparkling eyes, Yi Qing Luo took out a bag of coins from the profound phoenix ring and walked towards the vendor. Before she got near, suddenly, the surrounding people suddenly dispersed as they squeezed into the two sides of the street. In just a short while, the crowded street became empty. Before Yi Qing Luo could react, a woman who was rushing towards the side of the street grabbed her arm. Young lady, quickly give way. If you continue to block the way, you won't be able to leave. Suddenly, a furious roar came from the front. Why is there someone there? Who dared to block the young prince's way? Drag him away. Unbeknownst to them, a huge group of guards had appeared in front of them. At the very front were two burly men clad in armor. Each of them had a wooden stick in their hands, and they would hit the stall next to them from time to time. Many of the stalls were smashed, and their items were scattered all over the ground. The surrounding people crowded on the side of the street, trembling, but no one dared to stop them. Before Yi Qing Luo could react, the woman who was dragging her earlier knelt down on the ground with a plop. "Young Duke, please spare our lives. These two ladies have just entered the city, they don't know the rules here." The woman kowtowed hard as she tugged at Yi Qing Luo's skirt. "Young lady, quickly kneel down and beg for mercy." Yi Qing Luo looked at the woman beside her whose forehead was bleeding from kowtowing. She was still begging for mercy for her and Kitty Li. Yi Qing Luo frowned and was just about to help the woman up. Chapter 23:30. A group of guards also rushed over in a threatening manner. Just as the burly man's leg was about to land on the woman, the burly man suddenly cried out miserably. Then, his body, which was as heavy as a mountain, fell backward. The burly man fell flat on his face, his buttocks almost blossomed. The group of guards were stunned as they scrambled to help the burly man up. Who dared to play dirty with me?" The burly man covered his buttocks in pain as he stood up with the help of a few guards. His eyes revealed an ominous glint as he stared fiercely at the surroundings. The commoners on both sides of the street shivered as they shrank back. The burly man's ferocious gaze swept past the commoners. Finally, he looked at the woman who was kneeling on the ground in a daze. Following that, his gaze looked towards the two cold-looking little beauties who were standing beside the woman. For a moment, anger surged up his heart. The burly man rushed forward and stretched out his hand towards the woman. "You slut, how dare you block little prince's way and make me fall? See if I don't beat you to death." As he stretched out his hand, he raised his leg and kicked towards Yi Qing Luo and Kitty Li. The woman was so scared that her body went soft. On seeing the burly man hitting the lady beside him, she suddenly pounced forward. She hugged the burly man's leg tightly. "Steward Fan, you're a magnanimous person, I'll kowtow to you, kowtow to you. These two young ladies are really the first time they entered the city and don't know the rules. I will teach them well, please don't be calculative with them." The strength of the burly man who was addressed as Steward Fan was not something that a woman could control. Lin Mengya's hug had perfectly withstood the force of Steward Fan's kick. The woman spat out a mouthful of blood. Steward Fan's dark-colored luxurious robe was sprinkled with spots of red blood. Steward Fan's expression instantly turned black as his eyes widened even more. With a fierce look, he bent down and grabbed the back of the woman's collar. "How dare you dirty my clothes? Even if I sell you to a brothel, selling your body every day, selling your entire life, you still won't be able to compensate me for this piece of clothes. Slut!" He raised his hand and threw a slap towards the woman's face. Bam! There was another loud noise. The burly man who was carrying the woman was once again sent flying backwards. That huge and sturdy body smashed heavily into the ground, creating a huge crater. Stones flew everywhere, and the clothes of the surrounding guards were torn by the stones. It was obvious how much force Steward Fan had suffered when he was sent flying. Anger burned in Steward Fan's chest. Steward Fan pressed his stomach in disbelief. He struggled to get up. Just as he moved, he suddenly felt a fishy taste in his throat. Pfft! He spat out a large mouthful of blood. At that moment, General Manager Fan also saw it. The woman that she had lifted up was now being supported by two delicate and weak-looking beauties. The red-clothed girl lowered her head and softly comforted the woman. Her fine bangs covered half of her face. The hazy concealment actually had a kind of beauty to it. The other black-clothed young woman had a smile on her face as she hugged the woman's arm and sweetly said something. The woman looked a little worried. She whispered a few words, but was stopped by the two beauties. Seeing this, if General Manager Fan still did not understand, he would be a fool. Just now, he was sent flying. This time, he was sent flying again, and it was all because of those two little beauties. Chapter 23:31. Steward Fan's face was malevolent as he bellowed, "Detain the three of them. Bring them back to the palace." Yes. The guards received the order and walked towards Yiqing Luo's direction. The woman's hand trembled slightly as she tugged Yiqing Luo and pushed her back forcefully. Young lady, stop joking around. You're outsiders and don't know how scary little Lord Qin Yu is. Quickly leave. I'm here. Saying that, the woman flung Yiqing Luo aside and wanted to pounce towards those guards. Apparently she wanted to use her physical body to block those guards. Yiqing Luo raised her hand and grabbed the woman's shoulder as she pulled her behind her. The woman was stunned as she started to panic. Yiqing Luo didn't turn back as her gaze swept past the 5 guards who were walking over as her lips curled into a faint arc. How much time can you delay even if you rush up? In the end, we will all die here. The woman's struggling stopped. Kitty, protect her. Yiqing Luo let go of the woman. Kitty Li immediately hugged the woman's arm as she pulled her back a few steps. The woman was about to open her mouth to say something. But the scene in front of her made her dumbstruck. Only to see. The 5 guards who just came up had no time to make a move on Yiqing Luo. 1 or 2 of them, unknowingly flew out and fell onto the ground. Then holding onto their waist or hugging their abdomen, they rolled on the ground in pain. The other guards were all frightened by this strange scene. Steward Fan was so shocked that he held onto his chest as the pain from Yiqing Luo's kick seemed to attack his heart again. He took a few steps back as he shouted in a stutter, "Quick! Go get more people. Capture these few people." The guards took a look at their brothers who were rolling on the ground. They were hesitant as they didn't dare to move forward. Steward Fan was getting more and more furious as he endured the pain in his abdomen as he lifted his leg and kicked the guard's butt. Whoever dares to be disobedient, I will send all of you to the Elation Spring. Mentioning the Elation Spring, the faces of the guards were filled with extreme fear. One by one, they swarmed towards Yiqing Luo. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly. His long and narrow eyebrows formed a mocking cold arc. Elation Spring? What is that place? It seemed very scary. These guards were obviously afraid of her. However, he still charged forward fearlessly. Moreover, it was as if he was afraid that he would be sent to the Qin Yu Spring if he was a step late. Looking at the 20 or so guards pouncing on him like a swarm of bees, the ridicule in Yiqing Luo's eyes intensified. The profound qi in his body suddenly surged out. The 20 guards were sent flying like flowers scattered by a celestial maiden. Yiqing Luo clapped her hands, crossed her arms over her chest and smiled in a relaxed manner. I only found out now that the people of the Northern Waves continent treat guests from other continents in this way. It has really broadened my horizons. The expressions of the commoners on the street changed. They trembled and tried to explain. But when he saw the group of guards lying on the ground, he felt a chill run down his spine. Then, he looked at the fiendish Steward Fan, who was about to go crazy from anger. Still, none of them dared to speak. At this moment, the carriage that the guards had been protecting behind them was slowly lowered to the ground. A bam sound was heard. Steward Fan's fiendish expression, at this moment, turned humble and fawning. He speedily turned around and walked towards the side of the carriage as he spoke respectfully. Little Prince, sorry for disturbing your mood. I will chase these troublemakers away right now. The surroundings of the carriage were draped with dark-colored muslin curtains. A hand was placed on the muslin curtains as it slowly lifted. Chapter 23:32. His voice also trembled slightly. Little Prince, I. A slap landed on Steward Fan's face. Ouch! Steward Fan screamed and covered his face, looking like a punching bag. He lowered his voice and bowed his back. Where was the arrogance and despotic attitude from before? The gauze curtain was completely lifted. A bright yellow figure walked down from the carriage. The one who came down was a young man. Although he was called a young man, in fact, other than his height and age, he really couldn't be considered as young. The young man looked to be about 12 or 13 years old. His height, Yi Qing Luo estimated, shouldn't even reach her ears. Especially. The young man was chubby, almost as fat as a ball. He looked even shorter. This degree of being as fat as a ball was absolutely comparable to Fatty Master. Yi Qing Luo cast a sympathetic gaze towards the four bearers who were carrying the carriage. To be able to carry this little prince, they were also talents. Little Prince was dressed in a bright yellow brocade robe, his face was full of fat and his facial features couldn't be seen clearly. His eyes were small, leaving only 2 slits. The only thing that could be seen was the arrogance on Little Prince's face. Everyone could see that. This little prince was held in the palm of someone's hand, coaxed and pampered as he grew up. Looking at the little prince in front of her, Yi Qing Luo smiled coldly. Just as she was about to turn and leave. Suddenly, he felt a burning sensation in his chest. It was this feeling again. In the class of gods, when she stopped the crazy Long Yunzhan. The profound heart jade had such a situation. At that time, the burning sensation from the profound heart jade almost caused her to be injured under Long Yunzhan's sword. Why did this feeling come again? Yi Qing Luo's slender brows tightened as her breathing slightly panted. So it's 2 little beauties. The young prince pretended to be an adult. His eyes were narrowed into slits, and it was obvious that he had evil intentions. Yi Qing Luo's eyes flickered slightly. Her gaze fell on the young prince's bloated body. Little Prince's chest was flashing a ball of blue light. Blue-grade profound heart jade. From the looks of it, this young prince was completely a good-for-nothing. He actually possessed an extremely high-quality blue-grade profound heart jade. No wonder her profound jade heart would send out such a notification. Last time in the class of gods, the profound heart jade had also reminded her that there was something wrong with Long Yunzhan's heart. At that time, she thought that he was reminding her that Long Yunzhan's body contained the mysterious yin qi. Actually, he was reminding her of the gu poison in Long Yunzhan's body. Her divine phoenix profound heart jade was indeed very different from other profound practitioners' profound heart jades. If she cultivated properly, when her strength increased, he would definitely be able to use the divine phoenix profound heart jade to see more things. For example, the gu poison in Long Yunzhan's body. Yi Qing Luo's breathing smoothed out, once again suppressing the scorching feeling brought about by the profound jade heart. Coincidentally, Little Prince had already walked up with a wretched smile on his face. His squinted eyes were glued onto Yi Qing Luo's beautiful body. This prince likes hot chili peppers like you. Little beauty, obediently follow this prince back to the residence and let this prince dote on you. This prince will spare you. Saying that, Little Prince's plump body had already pounced towards Yi Qing Luo. TSK, children nowadays, at such a young age, already knew how to tease young ladies? This skilled teasing technique, just how many ladies had he harmed? Yi Qing Luo's eyes turned slightly cold as her body shifted slightly to the left. Little Prince pounced on empty air. His entire body staggered and fell forward. Chapter 23:33. A loud, heavy sound reverberated. Yi Qing Luo could feel the ground beneath her feet shook 3 times. Little Lord's 4 limbs were spread out as he faced the ground and fell heavily. Sounds of cold air being sucked in were heard from the surroundings. Plop. Plop. A series of voices rang out. The commoners and the guards on the side of the street all knelt on the ground, trembling in fear. They didn't even dare to lift their heads. The woman who was being supported by Kitty Lee was also frightened to the point that her body went soft. Kitty Lee couldn't hold on and both of them fell to the ground. The woman looked at Little Lord who was sprawled on the ground with a frightened look, her fingers trembling. Miss. Do you know? Who did you hurt? Yi Qing Luo lowered her eyes as she shot a disdainful glance at Little Lord and scoffed lightly. I didn't do anything, how could I hurt him? The woman's breathing was trembling and her voice was also trembling. He is the only son of the Battle King General, the only legitimate son of the Yuan family, the one and only genius child prodigy in Qinhua City. Yuan Kuang, little Lord Yuan. Child prodigy? Yi Qing Luo wasn't interested in the long introduction in front, but these two words made her raise her eyebrows. She lifted her leg and kicked little Lord's fat butt. That's it? Also a child prodigy? That's too insulting to the word, child prodigy. This kind of unreasonable behavior made the woman even more terrified. How could the woman withstand such stimulation as her eyes rolled back and she fainted? You little slut. You dare to do this to little Lord. Little Lord. Steward Fan almost fainted. He bared his teeth in anger as his murderous aura filled the air. He couldn't wait to rush up and tear Yi Qing Luo into pieces. But thinking of Yi Qing Luo's strength alone, under the circumstances where everyone couldn't understand, she defeated over 20 guards. How would Steward Fan dare to take his own life as a joke? He was so angry that he stomped his feet and scolded Yi Qing Luo, while looking nervously at little Lord who was sprawled on the ground motionless. The other guards came to their senses. One by one, their hearts stopped as they looked at little Lord nervously. Their little Lord, why was he lying on the ground for such a long time without moving? Could it be? Had he fallen to his death? Impossible. Their little prince was the #1 prodigy in joyous Qin City. Don't be fooled by the little prince's domineering attitude. His strength definitely gave him the capital to be arrogant. How could someone as powerful as the young prince fall to his death so easily? But, why didn't the little prince get up from the ground? If something really happened to the young prince, the guards accompanying them would definitely be executed by the War King's mansion. Thinking of this consequence, no matter how terrified the guards were towards Yi Qing Luo, they still walked over one by one. Young prince, the guards moved next to Yuan Kuang. They were even cautiously looking at Yi Qing Luo, who was just a few steps away. One of the guards extended his trembling hand towards Yuan Kuang. The other guard struggled to lift Yuan Kuang up from the ground. The guard's hand had just touched Yuan Kuang's nose. Suddenly, the guard let out a blood-curdling scream. There was a cracking sound. The guard was thrown out of the room. Fresh blood spilled all over the ground. Yuan Kuang, who was being supported by the guards, raised his head at some point. He was steadied and his feet stood on the ground. In front of him was a huge deep pit. The ground was cracked into densely packed cracks. In his hand, there was a bloody palm. Chapter 23:34. The guards hurriedly tidied up the mess. Yuan Kuang cut a sorry figure, but he was tidied up neatly. He tugged at his broken hand, which was dripping with blood, and let the blood dye his hand red. His expression was sinister as he stared at Yi Qing Luo viciously. This gaze made Yi Qing Luo raise her slender brows. At such a young age, he actually had such a strong killing intent. From this, it could be seen that many people had died in his hands. The young Duke of the War King's mansion, a child prodigy who possessed a blue-grade profound heart jade. He was so arrogant and willful, and he was so vicious that he would beat anyone who stood in his way. She was really a troublemaker. He had only just arrived at the Northern Wave continent, yet he was already able to provoke such a powerful figure. Sister. Kitty Lee called out to Yi Qing Luo softly, "Do you need Kitty Lee's help? You just need to take care of that woman, leave the rest to me." Yi Qing Luo smiled sweetly, her voice gentle. When she looked at Kitty Lee, her eyes slightly curved. She looked extremely sweet. Yuan Kuang's malicious gaze was filled with dense murderous intent as he stared at Yi Qing Luo. This was the first time he had suffered such humiliation since he was born. But, looking at Yi Qing Luo's smiling face, Yuan Kuang's evil aura had somehow dissipated quite a bit. To be honest, the red-clothed woman's appearance could not be considered to be extremely beautiful, nor was there anything breathtaking about her. All in all, he was pleasing to the eye. But, her unattainable attitude, as if nothing mattered to her. It really made him, the little prince who had never been wronged or frustrated, extremely itchy. There was a kind of restless feeling in his heart. He wanted to conquer this woman in front of him. Yuan Kuang's eyes were gradually filled with fiery evil thoughts. This woman had made him so embarrassed in front of everyone. Wouldn't killing her be letting her off too easily? Or, completely destroy her so-called unattainable status. Destroy her unsullied by the mud. Fuck her. Torture her. This was the best punishment for her. Steward Fan, who was standing to the side, had taken care of the young prince for 8 years. How could he not know what the young prince was thinking? Just now, when the young prince fell to the ground, he didn't dare to help him up. After returning to the manor, if the young prince were to pursue the matter, he could not absolve himself from the blame. The young prince's temperament, he understood. Although the young prince was young, his methods were unparalleled. Steward Fan clenched his fists tightly as his murderous eyes stared at Yiqing Luo. He thought about the punishment he might receive from the young prince when he returned to the manor. Chief Steward Fan resolutely chose. He had to take the initiative to capture that little slut for the little prince to show his loyalty. Little bitch. The fact that Xiao Wanye took a liking to you is your good fortune from your previous life. How dare you not know what's good for you? Must you suffer a little before you learn to be obedient? Steward Fan roared angrily, and a thick profound chi suddenly burst out from his body. The profound energy surged, like thousands of layers of huge waves, charging straight towards Yiqing Luo's face. Boom boom boom. A loud explosion resounded throughout the entire Joy City. But in an instant, it had completely covered Yiqing Luo's petite figure. The people huddled in the corner of the street screamed in fear. That little girl, it was actually covered by Steward Fan's Xian energy. That little girl, how would there be any chance of survival? Steward Fan looked at the rumbling Xian wave in front of him. The surrounding stalls and shops were all crushed to pieces. He laughed complacently. A little girl was indeed a little girl. Chapter 23:35. He didn't want to give that little bitch a chance to play tricks. What ability did that little bitch have to win against him? Pa! A slap landed on Steward Fan's head. Steward Fan's laughter stopped abruptly. Idiot! When did I say that I wanted that little bitch's life? Yuan Kuang gritted his teeth and stared at Steward Fan viciously. The fat on his face trembled. Little Prince. Little Prince, listen to me. Chief Steward Fan's aura instantly retracted, and he bowed towards Yuan Kuang with a flattering smile. This lowly one didn't use too much profound energy. At most, she won't be able to move. Let's carry her back, and let the little duke personally teach Zhou Jiao. Zhou Jiao, it'll definitely be a different experience. Steward Fan's last sentence had a profound meaning. Yuan Kuang's eyes suddenly lit up. He licked his lips with his scarlet tongue. That's more like it. Go and carry that little bitch back. I can't wait to taste her. Steward Fan smiled obsequiously. Then, he hurriedly swaggered in the direction where the profound chi had enveloped. The whole street had been turned into a mess. The ground was full of gravel, and cracks spread out like a spider web. Steward Fan walked on the gravel, making a crunching sound. The people knelt on the ground, not daring to raise their heads. They sighed silently in their hearts. Another woman had suffered a calamity. Steward Fan stepped into the Xian Qi. Thick waves of qi were still rolling and rolling. Steward Fan's figure was faintly discernible in the qi waves. Bang! Suddenly, there was a loud sound of collision. The gravel on the ground was suddenly blown up by a sharp whirlwind. It was dozens of feet high. The strong wind waves lingered into a vortex. The qi waves rushed toward them from all directions. Ah! A blood-curdling scream came from the vortex. The people's hearts trembled. This voice, it was Steward Fan's voice. This scream also made Yuan Kuang's face turn serious. He glanced at the air billows that were swept up by the whirlpool to a height of dozens of feet, completely concealing the scene inside. Yuan Kuang's expression changed abruptly. In a split second, dark clouds covered his face. Damn it. That little bitch. Yuan Kuang's figure blurred. His fat body immediately disappeared in front of everyone. He charged towards the layers of whirlpools. However, as soon as Yuan Kuang approached, something seemed to be flying towards him. Yuan Kuang's face darkened. With a wave of his hand, he sent that thing flying. Bang! That thing flew out of the vortex and rolled on the ground. The surrounding people sucked in a breath of cold air. Wasn't the thing that was thrown out Steward Fan, covered in blood? At that moment, Steward Fan was lying limply on the ground, motionless. His face was covered in blood, making his ferocious face look even more ferocious. Yuan Kuang stared in disbelief at the thing he had just sent flying. Looking at Steward Fan's wretched appearance. The cold light in his eyes kept darting about. The blood on Steward Fan's face was seeping out from his eyes. That little bitch dug out Steward Fan's eyes. Steward Fan's limbs were bent at an extremely strange angle. Obviously, the meridians in his limbs were cut. And Steward Fan's lower body was also dripping with blood. Chapter 23:36. Oh. Didn't you want to teach me this week? Come on, be pretentious. Anyway, I have a lot of time. A clear laughter was heard from that profound chi. The young lady's slender and elegant figure slowly revealed itself. The red dress was like a blazing sun, setting off the young lady's not considered stunning but pretty face, extremely enchanting. The surrounding commoners saw this scene. In their hearts, they were not only shocked by this cruel and bloody scene. And the shock towards Yiqing Luo. Everyone's breathing had unconsciously slowed down and lightened up. No one dared to make any sound. This lady had too much guts. She actually crippled Little Duke's man. She actually dared to provoke Little Duke. You. Yuan Kuang's eyes widened, filled with disbelief and anger. He pointed at Yiqing Luo. The fats on his body kept trembling. Yiqing Luo crippled Steward Fan's actions. He was so shocked that he didn't know what to say. Shock, aghast, uncontrollable anger, but there was also a faint trace of excitement. Such a complicated emotion. Yuan Kuang himself couldn't understand it. Yiqing Luo was like a high and mighty queen, step by step, walking towards Yuan Kuang in a majestic manner. Her long and narrow eyes pulled out a cold arc of contempt. Her lips curled upwards as she sneered, so the child prodigy Little Duke who has been pampered by thousands, is followed by this kind of trash. Just this bit of ability, and you dare to rob a good girl on the streets? Yuan Kuang was still in a daze. He was forced to take a few steps back by Yiqing Luo's imposing manner. His fat body made a thud-thud sound as he stepped on the ground. He stared at the beautiful face in front of him, as his throat unconsciously made a swallowing sound. His narrow eyes were filled with evil thoughts. In an instant, he had completely forgotten about the vicious things that Yiqing Luo had done earlier. Yiqing Luo naturally understood Yuan Kuang's gaze. She sneered. This so-called child prodigy Little Duke was really a spoiled child. Lawless, as if there would be someone to hold up the sky for him even if it collapsed. That Steward Fan dared to be so arrogant. He must have been by Yuan Kuang's side for at least 5 years. Steward Fan was crippled by her. Not only was Yuan Kuang not angry, he even had evil thoughts towards her. She had really been spoiled to the point where she had become a heartless person. Yuan Kuang's chubby face suddenly broke into a smile. He thought of himself as elegant, distinguished, and refined. He opened his mouth and was about to say something. Suddenly, a clamor came from not far away. In this silent scene, it was extremely clear. Following that, a group of about 20 to 30 people walked over from the front. Before the person arrived, a clear and melodious voice first came over. Yuan Kuang, I heard that you've encountered some difficulties. Ha 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 ha. There's something that Yuan Kuang, can't handle? I knew it. What kind of *T prodigy is that? You gave yourself that title. When he heard the voice coming, Yuan Kuang's expression darkened. His fat face, which was filled with evil thoughts, was overcast. Yiqing Luo noticed the change in Yuan Kuang's expression as she raised her eyebrows in interest. There was actually someone who could make the lawless little duke reveal this kind of expression in this world? This little duke, wasn't he the only one who reigned supreme? Just as she was thinking, those 20 to 30 people had already arrived in a grandiose manner. Chapter 23:37. It was a little girl about the same age as Yuan Kuang. She was wearing a luxurious long dress of hundreds of birds. The colorful dress made the little girl look full of vigor. However, his face was filled with arrogance and willfulness. Even the vigor that a person of his age should have was somewhat overshadowed. Xia Lingling. What are you doing here? Yuan Kuang's face was filled with impatience. The girl called Xia Lingling proudly raised her chin and said, "The servant said that you met someone who wants to teach you a lesson. I'm here to see you make a fool of yourself." Yuan Kuang's face was sinister as he glared at the people around him. Which blind guy had actually spread this matter out? Everyone felt a chill in their hearts. Yuan Kuang's gaze, after living in Joy City for so many years, how could they not know? Yuan Kuang wanted to kill everyone present who had seen this scene today. Xia Lingling didn't realize that her words had triggered Yuan Kuang's desire to massacre the entire street. Even if she sensed it, she would not say anything. In any case, lowly commoners. So what if they were killed? It didn't matter. Xia Lingling smiled as she looked at Steward Fan, who was covered in blood behind Yuan Kuang. Her eyes suddenly lit up. She trotted forward. After seeing Steward Fan's miserable state, she did not have the frightened expression that a young girl should have. Instead, he licked his lips excitedly. Ah! Ha ha ha, Yuan Kuang, someone actually killed your chief steward in front of you. This is too inconceivable. She turned around and looked around. Who is it? Who is it? Who is it that dares to not give face to the young prince? Let this princess have a look. I must praise that person. Although that was the case, but Yiqing Luo, who was standing not too far away from Xia Lingling. He could clearly sense the murderous intent in Xia Lingling's eyes as she searched the surroundings. Looks like Xia Lingling wanted to praise that person, but it was a lie. His real intention was to kill that person. This Xia Lingling didn't hate Yuan Kuang as much as she seemed on the surface. What did he mean by coming to see Yuan Kuang make a fool of himself? With such a large group of people. No matter how you looked at it, it looked like they were here to cheer for Yuan Kuang. Suddenly, Xia Lingling's cold and arrogant voice sounded in his ears. Yiqing Luo's gaze moved slightly as she looked at Xia Lingling. Only then did she realize that all the guards' gazes were focused on her. Yuan Kuang's guards even pointed at her with their fingers. So it's you who dares to challenge Yuan Kuang? You even killed General Manager Fan? Xia Lingling raised her head and asked arrogantly. Xia Lingling had only reached Yiqing Luo's shoulder. He was still a child. In terms of imposing manner, Yiqing Luo was dwarfed by a huge chunk. Xia Lingling stood in front of Yiqing Luo, looking like a little kid who couldn't get any sweets to eat. Yiqing Luo squinted her eyes slightly, as she looked at the young lady who was putting on an act with a smile which didn't look like a smile, as she laughed softly. Firstly, I don't have the leisure to pick a fight with a wimpy kid, my time is very precious. Second, I didn't kill Chief Steward Fan. I only crippled him in self-defense. In the end, she added with a smile, don't worry, I won't die. You. Xia Lingling did not expect that this red-dressed girl, who looked to be at most 1 or 2 years older than her, would speak so rudely. Xia Lingling, who had never been wronged, was so angry that her eyes turned red. Chapter 23:38. Xia Lingling's furious howl. And it finally made the surrounding people regain their senses. They looked at Yi Qing Luo in shock. This young lady not only challenged little prince, but also disrespected little region princess. These two people, any one of them was not someone a young lady like her could afford to offend. Outsiders didn't even bother to inquire about the rules of Qinghua City. This time round, not only did she lose her life, she even implicated them. The commoners thought of Yuan Kuang's gaze earlier. Their hearts felt goosebumps. Their hearts started to resent Yi Qing Luo for not knowing what was good for her. But, the resentment in the commoners' hearts. Yi Qing Luo didn't know. Nor was she interested to know about such things. Her gaze was calm and her smile was faint. She bent over slightly and leaned over, looking down at Xia Lingling. I'm not interested who you are. I don't know if I will die now, but I can confirm that you will definitely die in front of me. Icy cold words, one word at a time, spat out from Yi Qing Luo's lips. Like being sealed in ice, the ridiculing gaze made Xia Lingling tremble as she cried out in fright and retreated a few steps back. Xia Lingling was wearing a thick bird dress. When she stumbled back, her feet stepped on the hem of her dress. A loud thump was heard. Xia Lingling fell heavily onto the ground and rolled into a ball. The serving maids were terrified as they hurriedly went forward and helped Xia Lingling up. Xia Lingling's fall was extremely heavy. Her meticulously made-up hair was messed up from the impact. Her face was stained with gravel and dust. And the feathers of the 100 Birds costume. It looked comical and ridiculous. The maids hurriedly wiped the dust off her face and tidied up her messy hair. Xia Lingling was so angry that her entire body was trembling. Looking at the surrounding people, she felt that they were all laughing at her. She, Xia Lingling, the current monarch's most doted little region princess, the northern continent's overbearing and unscrupulous little region princess. Who dared to laugh at her? Who dared to humiliate her? Xia Lingling stared fiercely at Yi Qing Luo. That little slut who caused her to embarrass herself, actually acted as though nothing had happened and stood there quietly, looking at her smilingly. Was he laughing at her? Laughing at her? Xia Lingling screamed, "Ah!" She pointed at Yi Qing Luo as she screamed madly, "Kill her! Kill this little bitch for me!" The guards that Xia Lingling brought along immediately rushed towards Yi Qing Luo. Before he could make a move, he heard an angry shout, "Stop!" The guards were startled, and when they turned their heads, they saw Yuan Kuang walking over with a body full of fat. This is the woman this prince has taken a fancy to, who dares to touch her? Xia Lingling looked at Yuan Kuang in disbelief. Are you crazy? Yuan Kuang's eyes were filled with excitement as he stared at Yi Qing Luo in a daze. His eyeballs couldn't wait to be glued onto her. He smiled wretchedly. This prince is very clear-headed. It's only interesting to conquer this kind of spicy little chili. This prince likes this kind of style. She killed Steward Fan. A glint of jealousy flashed past Xia Lingling's eyes as she stared at Yi Qing Luo resentfully. Moreover, she's so ugly, totally incomparable to those women in your residence. If this little beauty is happy, then so be it. Yuan Kuang totally disregarded Xia Lingling's expression. This prince is used to eating delicacies and now I like this kind of delicate-looking woman. Chapter 23:39. Yuan Kuang couldn't be bothered with Xia Lingling. He looked at Yi Qing Luo and laughed arrogantly. Little beauty, other than this duke, no one can protect you now. If you don't want to die, follow this duke back to the residence now. This prince will not fuss over your rude behavior today. A quick-witted guard behind Yuan Kuang hurriedly chimed in, "Miss, I'm afraid you don't know, but the young princess has a noble status. In the entire Northern Wave continent, her words are absolute. She can do whatever she wants. If this matter reaches the ears of the sovereign, not only will you be unable to leave the Northern Wave continent, your family will also suffer the punishment of the sovereign of the Northern Wave continent." The guard praised Xia Lingling to the heavens. Xiao Lingling's face was filled with anger. Under the flattery of the guard, a proud smile gradually appeared on his face. She harumphed heavily at Yi Qing Luo. It seemed that she was going to tell the imperial uncle about this. She wanted her uncle to kill this little bitch. Let the royal family execute this little slut's 9 generations. The guard sized up Yi Qing Luo's expression and continued, but as long as you follow our little prince, with his protection, little region princess will definitely not pursue this matter. Hearing this, Xiao Lingling's proud expression froze. She widened her eyes and opened her mouth to say that she would definitely pursue this matter to the end. But before he could speak, he was stopped by Yuan Kuang's gaze. Xiao Lingling felt wronged. She fiercely stomped her feet, bit her lips, and said resentfully, "Yuan Kuang. You helped that bitch bully me. I won't talk to you anymore." She angrily pushed away the maidservant who was supporting her and rushed towards her carriage. When he passed by Yuan Kuang, he slammed into Yuan Kuang. However, Yuan Kuang was such a sturdy lump. Xiao Lingling crashed into Yuan Kuang, but she couldn't move him at all. Instead, he was sent flying. Xiao Lingling was so angry that she crawled up from the ground and rushed to her carriage. Go, go, go. I don't want to see him again. The maidservants hurriedly followed and stood by the side of the carriage to serve. A group of people quickly left the street. It was like a farce. He left like a farce. Yi Qing Luo had her arms crossed in front of her chest from start to finish, as though she was watching a show, observing the entire process. As soon as Xiao Lingling left, Yuan Kuang stuck to her. Little beauty, this prince helped you get rid of a troublemaker. Shouldn't you repay this prince? Yi Qing Luo's lips curled into an enchanting smile, her eyes were mixed with a gloomy luster. Little Duke, are you sure you want me to repay you? Yuan Kuang's heart was stirred by Yi Qing Luo's smile. He immediately laughed foolishly. Little beauty, could it be that you want to repay me with your body? If you devote yourself to me, although you're a bit older, but this prince doesn't mind. As he spoke, his fat body was already trembling as he pounced on him. Yi Qing Luo smiled even more enchantingly. A cold light flickered in her charming eyes. The moment Yuan Kuang pounced forward, a red fan was pressed against Yuan Kuang's chest. Young prince, Yi Qing Luo gave a low laugh. Her pair of charming eyes seemed to be able to hook people's souls. Yuan Kuang almost went into a daze. Especially, in that pair of charming eyes, there was a faint cold glint, which simply made the blood in his heart boil, clamoring to conquer her. Yuan Kuang didn't notice the abnormality at this time. But the crowd were so shocked that they sucked in a mouthful of cold air. One must know that the degree of Yuan Kuang's obesity could no longer be expressed with numbers. Such a big lump of meat. Chapter 2340. Little beauty. This prince will definitely dote on you. Yuan Kuang grinned sinisterly as he stretched out his hand to grab that red fan and swiftly caught Yi Qing Luo's hand. But his hand was just about to touch Yi Qing Luo. Yi Qing Luo had already avoided his touch. Along with that red fan, it also left Yuan Kuang's chest. Yuan Kuang, who had lost his support, his fat body was unstable as he fell heavily onto the ground. Just like before, his 4 limbs were wide open, facing the ground. The crowd drew in a cold breath again. They really couldn't understand how Yi Qing Luo managed to do it, time and time again, to make the legendary little marquis to be in such a sorry state. Little Duke, don't worry, later, I will definitely let you suffer enough. Yi Qing Luo stepped on Yuan Kuang's back as she bent down, smiling at that lump of meat beneath her feet. Yuan Kuang struggled for a few times, but couldn't break free from Yi Qing Luo's strength. He turned his face sideways, the fat on his face pressed against the ground, looking extremely oily. A pair of slender eyes was staring at Yi Qing Luo excitedly. Yi Qing Luo. Damn, this guy, could he be a masochist? The deeper the torture, the heavier the torture, the more excited he got. This was an illness. It had to be cured. Sister, this woman's breathing seems to be getting heavier. Kitty Lee's voice suddenly came from behind. Yiqing Luo was stunned as she immediately turned her head over. She saw the woman who had pleaded for them earlier, lying in Kitty Lee's arms, panting heavily, as though she would be out of breath any time. Yiqing Luo flicked her finger, speedily took out a bottle of pills from the profound phoenix ring and threw it to Kitty Lee. Feed her one. Following that, she retracted her gaze and increased the strength on her feet. She looked down at Yuan Kuang's oily fat face, sarcastically curled her lips and said word by word, "Just a wimpy kid, you want to learn how to tease a young lady? You fancy me, but I don't fancy a wimpy kid like you." Saying that, she casually gave Yuan Kuang a kick. It looked like a light kick. Yuan Kuang's fat body was kicked in the direction of a group of guards. The guards swarmed forward, wanting to catch Yuan Kuang. However, they were all pressed down by Yuan Kuang. There were 2 guards whose heads were pressed to the ground by the young prince's fat body and turned into meat patties. Yiqing Luo didn't bother about Yuan Kuang anymore, but swiftly turned around and walked over to Kitty Lee. She bent down and picked up the woman. Then, he walked to the other side of the street. The group of guards wanted to give chase, but they didn't dare to. Even the young prince couldn't beat him. Even if they went up, they would just be sending themselves to death in vain. She looked at the young prince grimacing in pain and screaming in pain. The guards decisively chose. She inquired about little lord's well-being and directly ignored the 3 of them who were leaving. Yiqing Luo carried the woman and speedily left the street, turning into a quieter alley. Yiqing Luo placed the woman against the wall and took her pulse. The bleeding on the woman's forehead had already stopped. Her face was pale and she looked extremely weak. Yiqing Luo wasn't stingy with her pills. She fed the woman another pill and helped to bandage the wound on her forehead. "Sister, why didn't you just kill that wimpy kid? He's simply too much." Kitty Lee looked at the woman's pale face and said angrily. Chapter 23:41. Moreover, this woman seems to have suffered too much shock, and her heart can't take it. If we delay any longer, her life might be in danger. After all, this woman did it for her, to remind her, and to save her, and that was why she brought death upon herself. Then, he kowtowed for her, causing his wound to become inflamed. If she ignored the woman, she would be too cold and heartless. After treating the woman's wound, Yiqing Luo kept the things properly. Kitty Lee was still angry about what happened to Yuan Kuang. Seeing Yiqing Luo stop what she was doing, Kitty Lee placed her head on Yiqing Luo's shoulder, pouted and said unhappily, "Sister, Yuan Kuang actually dared to tease you. How could you let him off so easily? Why don't I go to his place tonight and give him a paw?" Yiqing Luo rubbed Kitty Lee's little head. "Do you think I'm that kind of kind-hearted person?" "No," Kitty Lee answered decisively. Yiqing Luo patted her head. "That's it. But, sister has let Yuan Kuang off just like that. He will definitely come looking for trouble with us." Kitty Lee raised her pretty face as she blinked her big bright eyes, looking at Yiqing Luo in puzzlement. Yiqing Luo smiled mysteriously as a crafty glint flashed past her eyes. Didn't he keep saying that he wanted pain? I'll let him suffer as much as he wants. Yuan Kuang was directly carried back by a group of guards. Steward Fan, who had been completely crippled, was also carried back. When the 2 of them were carried back to the Battle King's mansion in a sorry state, the servant who was guarding the door was dumbfounded. Usually, the young prince and Steward Fan would come back from outside. When was he not in high spirits? When had he not returned with his spoils of war, and a full load of them? This was the first time the young prince was carried back by someone. Furthermore, there was not a single part of Steward Fan's body that was unscathed. His body was drenched in blood and riddled with scars. He was a complete cripple. The entire Battle Emperor's mansion was shocked by the sight. For a moment, everyone in the War King's mansion was in a state of panic. They hurriedly took care of the young duke. The young duke was the lifeblood of the War King's mansion. Now, he was being carried home with injuries. If General Battle King knew, the entire War King's mansion would suffer. However, how could the War King General not know that Yuan Kuang was being carried back? After receiving the news, the Warlord General and his wife hurried back to the Warlord residence. Then, she saw that he was lying on the bed with his eyes closed and there were obvious scratches on his face. The general's wife rushed to the bedside, her heart aching. She grabbed Yuan Kuang's hand and softly asked about his well-being. Yuan Kuang was unconscious and could not answer the general's wife. The Warlord General's eyes were as big as copper bells, and his eyes were filled with rage. Who is it? Who dared to hurt this prince's son? This prince wants that person to pay with his life. The guards who followed Yuan Kuang out to commit crimes were all forced to kneel in front of Yuan Kuang's door. Hearing the War King General's furious roar, they all trembled and knelt on the ground. My son! Wake up! Mother is here, wake up, open your eyes and look at mother. The general's wife grabbed Yuan Kuang's hand and cried desperately. The crying Battle King General felt a throbbing pain on his forehead. He was annoyed and berated, shut up. Your son is not dead yet, why are you crying? You're tuning into the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.